Welcome to the Lose Weight, Live Life podcast. If you're someone who would do anything to lose weight, yet finds it impossible to stick to a diet, to eat less, or just what you think you should, this podcast is for you. I am your host, certified life and weight mindset coach Claire McKenzie. Listen in to learn how to stop overeating, lose weight for the last time, and create a relationship with food and yourself that you love, all without diet deprivation and self-sabotage. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast episode, which is all about self-compassion and about stopping being your own worst critic. But before I start, I want to tell you about my new program, Embracing You, that starts on the 1st of November. Weight wellness isn't just about the physical weight you carry, it's also about the mental weight we often carry around with us too. The mental weight can often look like you having a story that you should be different or better in some way. It might feel like frustration with yourself that you've not figured out how to lose and manage your weight for life yet, or it might feel like some self-judgment because you're maybe making food choices that you know aren't helping you in the long run. And what we're going to do in Embracing You is really help and support you, give you the tools to help you let go of any mental burden you may have about yourself. Because when you do that, it is so much easier to approach your health and well-being because you're doing so from a place of self-acceptance. It's so much easier to improve your weight, wellness, and overall health when you appreciate yourself as you are, flaws and all, because of course we're all human and we've all got flaws. But I want you to go into December feeling more at peace with yourself, more self-assured, and ready to prioritize your well-being during the festive season. And Embracing You is going to help you make that shift. It's going to give you the tools to help you transform both your mindset and your relationship with yourself so that you can make lasting changes on your weight wellness journey and in other areas of your life as well. If you're interested, go to www.thebestyou.coach/embracing-you, all one word, to find out more. So then, let's move on to today's episode. So what I want to do is explore a key theme that's quite closely tied to what I will be teaching in my Embracing You program, and that is self-compassion. So self-compassion is one of the most transformative practices you can bring into your life, and it plays a crucial role in both how you view yourself and how you approach your relationship with food. So what we're going to do today is dive deep into the importance of self-compassion. We're going to explore what it truly is, how it shows up in our lives, why it matters, and most importantly, how you can cultivate more of it in your day-to-day. But let's start with what happens when self-compassion is missing and how that can negatively impact your relationship with food and how it ripples into other areas of your life as well. When we lack self-compassion in our relationship with food and ourselves, the way we treat ourselves can feel a little bit like an emotional battleground. So imagine reaching for that extra slice of cake after a tough day, only to immediately be hit with some self-criticism. Maybe you have thoughts of, I have no willpower, I always mess up, what's wrong with me? And this isn't just, these aren't just fleeting thoughts. You might notice that this is more like an ongoing narrative, and it can be deeply harmful. Unfortunately, many of you won't have to try too hard to picture this because it's likely all too familiar. In fact, it may be so ingrained that you've accepted it as normal, not even considering that it doesn't need to be this way. Cycles of self-judgment, reinforced by diet culture we've been steeped in for decades, has conditioned us to equate food choices sometimes with moral worth. The diet industry profits off this belief, perpetuating the idea that strict control over our eating defines our success or failure as people. And this mindset can drive us to experience shame whenever we fall off track, I say that in inverted commas, as though each bite of cake carries a deeper meaning about our worth. And what's more, constant self-criticism and guilt can drive us further into emotional eating because we find ourselves eating to soothe the very pain caused by our judgment, which perpetuates a damaging cycle. And of course, it doesn't have to be this way. The diet industry's narrow focus on willpower and control distracts from the more effective approach of self-compassion. So Instead of treating food choices as moral victories or failures, self-compassion invites us to see them as human experiences. It teaches us to meet our struggles with understanding rather than with punishment, and I cannot emphasize the importance of this. When we replace self-criticism with self-compassion, we give ourselves room to learn and grow, rather than staying stuck in cycles of shame and overeating. And you can break free from damaging patterns the diet industry has ingrained and begin to rebuild a relationship with food and yourself that's based on kindness and not judgment. You see, when self-compassion is missing, the impact extends beyond just food choices. It can ripple into many areas of your life. Consider how this self-critical mindset affects your career, your relationships, even your approach to self-care. For example, in your professional life, maybe you harshly judge yourself for not being perfect on a project or not meeting unrealistic expectations. And this constant self-criticism can then lead to burnout, anxiety, or a feeling of never being good enough. Maybe in relationships, it causes you to feel unworthy of love or connection and makes it difficult to maintain healthy boundaries or foster trust. Without self-compassion, every perceived failure or setback can become proof of your inadequacy. And this mindset can prevent you from seeking new opportunities, improving relationships, or even just feeling comfortable in your own skin. However, when you practice self-compassion, you recognize that everyone faces struggles, and it becomes easier to treat yourself with kindness during tough moments, whether you're managing stress at work or navigating difficult conversations in relationships. And you begin to see mistakes not as personal failures, but as a part of the human experience, and allow yourself to grow rather than to dwell in guilt or shame. So in both food and life, self-compassion helps us shift the narrative from I'm not enough to I am human and learning, which opens the door to healthier habits, deeper connections, and a greater sense of peace. So I want to dig more into what self-compassion really is. So at its core, self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and support that you would offer to a close friend or loved family member. It's about recognizing that as humans, we all face challenges, we all make mistakes, we all experience difficult emotions. And instead of being harsh or critical towards ourselves during those times, we approach ourselves with care and empathy. Self-compassion we can consider as having three key components. 1, self-kindness, 2, common humanity, and 3, mindfulness. And this concept of self-compassion having these three components was introduced and developed by Dr. Kristen Neff, who is a pioneering researcher in the field of the self-compassion. So let's dig a little more into those. So she considers that self-kindness is about being gentle and understanding with ourselves, particularly during moments of failure or struggle. It's about rather than responding to harsh self-criticism. So many of us are conditioned to beat ourselves up when we make mistakes because, well, I don't know, but because I think, unknowingly, I think we somehow believe that this will motivate us to do better. But it doesn't work that way. And research shows that this approach often leads to more stress, self-sabotage, and feelings of inadequacy. Self-kindness shifts this narrative, encouraging us to treat ourselves with the same warmth and care we would offer to a friend in a similar situation. It means acknowledging that being human includes imperfection and that it's okay to falter. So instead of berating ourselves with thoughts like, I'm not good enough or I always mess up, we can practice saying things like, it's okay, everyone makes mistakes, I can try again. And this kind of compassionate self-talk helps to soften the emotional impact of setbacks, making it easier to get back on track. This principle also helps create an environment of emotional safety within ourselves, and that helps us with resilience. When we approach challenges with kindness, we're more likely to learn from them, make positive changes, and maintain long-term emotional and physical well-being. So in a weight loss journey, for instance, self-kindness can help break the cycle of guilt and shame, making it easier to develop healthier, more sustainable habits. Dr. Kristen Neff's concept of common humanity emphasizes that suffering and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. Instead of feeling isolated in our struggles, common humanity helps us recognize that we're not alone. When we experience failure or hardship, it's easy to think, why me? Or we think that we're the only ones going through this. But this mindset can amplify feelings of inadequacy and deepen our emotional suffering. However, common humanity reframes these thoughts, reminding us that everyone faces difficulties and setbacks. Life's challenges are a part of what connects us as human beings. And by embracing this principle, we shift from isolation to connection. So, for example, on a weight loss journey, you might feel discouraged after an emotional eating episode or binge eating or whatever it is and think you failed. But through common humanity, you will remember that also others are struggling with emotional eating. It's not a personal flaw, it's a really common human challenge. And when you remember this, it can help you soften any self-judgment and help you to feel a sense of belonging, which is crucial for emotional resilience. Common humanity also invites us to see our struggles with more perspective. Rather than thinking our problems are unique and isolating, we acknowledge that they're part of the broader human condition, and this helps reduce feelings of shame, enabling us to approach our challenges with greater self-compassion and patience. Ultimately, recognizing that suffering is universal helps us to feel less alone, more connected, and more equipped to face life's difficulties with kindness and understanding. And the third component then of Dr. Kristin Neff's work is self-compassion. In self-compassion is mindfulness. It involves being aware of our thoughts and feelings and experiences in the present moment without judgment. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our emotions and thoughts with openness and curiosity rather than trying to suppress or over-identify with them. It's about staying present with what's happening, allowing us to see things as they are rather than being swept away by emotional reactivity. So when applied to a challenging situation, mindfulness helps us become more attuned to our internal world. For example, imagine you've just overeaten and a wave of guilt is kind of rising within you, or regret. Without mindfulness, you might react automatically and criticize yourself harshly or ignore the feeling by further emotional eating, trying to numb it and escape it even more. But with mindfulness helps you to find the space to pause, notice what's happening, and observe your feelings of guilt without reacting impulsively. By simply acknowledging your emotions, it might just be saying something along the lines of, right now I'm feeling guilty. And just pausing and acknowledging that for yourself can create a space where self-compassion can arise. So mindfulness is essential for self-compassion because it brings awareness to our suffering, which is the first step towards healing it. You can't offer yourself kindness if you're not aware of your own unkindness. Mindfulness ensures that we're present with our discomfort, not avoiding it or judging it. It also helps us avoid over-identifying with negative thoughts such as I always fail. And it helps ground us in the present moment and helps us stop our minds spiraling into past or future anxieties. So in the long run, mindfulness can support us with emotional balance. It helps us face our struggles without becoming overwhelmed by them. It allows us to treat ourselves with compassion and care that we truly deserve. So let's take these components and explore them some more and see how they play out when it comes to first our relationship with food and then with other areas of our life. For many of us, our relationship with food is fraught with struggle and guilt and self-criticism, particularly in the context of dieting, emotional eating, and body image. But when we consider self-compassion in these areas, we can transform how we approach our relationship with food and our relationship with ourselves. Now, one of the most common ways we fail to show ourselves kindness is in how we react to our eating habits. After indulging in a treat or overeating, many of us immediately launch into a spiral of negative self-talk. I have no willpower. I've ruined everything. Why can't I control myself like other people? Why can't I be a normal person? This kind of inner dialogue not only makes us feel worse, but often leads to further emotional eating, which means that the shame and guilt compound and reinforce a cycle where we eat to soothe negative emotions, but then feel even worse afterwards. However, self-kindness encourages us to shift this reaction. So instead of self-criticism, we approach ourselves with warmth and understanding. So for instance, if you eat something that doesn't align with your weight wellness goals, self-kindness might sound like, it's okay. I had a tough day and I reached for comfort food, but I'm not a bad person for doing that. This kind of gentle approach creates a space for self-reflection rather than self-punishment. You're more likely to learn from the experience maybe identifying an emotional trigger that led to the eating without being weighed down by guilt. And over time, this practice helps build a more nurturing, supportive relationship with food, where occasional indulgences are not met with judgment, but are accepted as a part of being human. Before I go on to talk about the common humanity aspect, I want to say a few words about two common challenges that often arise, which can hinder our weight wellness goals. So let's break them down. So the first one involves, thoughts, kind of feeling stuck in allowing it all to be okay when we're eating against ourselves. Sometimes I call it off-plan eating, emotional eating. And this is about the delicate balance of allowing emotional eating to be okay, particularly when the intention behind self-compassion gets misconstrued as permission to continue behaviours that don't support your weight wellness. So it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I'm being kind to myself, so it's okay to keep eating to soothe my emotions. And while self-kindness is vital, allowing repeated emotional eating without deeper reflection can prevent meaningful change. So self-compassion doesn't mean ignoring the behaviours that may be hindering you in the long run. It's about understanding why those behaviours are happening and addressing the root cause with kindness. So, for example, if you find yourself eating in response to stress, self-compassion would involve acknowledging the stress and your natural human reaction to cope with food, but it also asks you to consider whether that choice is truly nourishing you, both emotionally and physically. And the key is recognizing the difference between self-kindness and complacency. So self-kindness should involve both acceptance and accountability. It's okay to acknowledge that emotional eating happens, but the next step is using that awareness to explore healthier coping strategies. Being kind to yourself means recognizing that you do deserve better strategies for dealing with emotions than turning to food. It's about gently moving yourself towards choices that support your overall well-being, rather than keeping you stuck in a cycle that doesn't serve you. The other challenge that I sometimes see is us using or overusing self-compassion as a kind of free pass. So it's when we allow ourselves our emotional eating or overeating under the guise of self-compassion to the point where it becomes an excuse to avoid making positive change. So in this scenario, we might justify every instance of overeating by saying, it's okay, I'm being kind to myself, but without recognizing that we're avoiding the real issue. So true self-compassion doesn't enable unhealthy habits. It nurtures growth and it helps us work through difficult emotions in a way that is ultimately beneficial. When we overuse the concept of self-compassion to repeatedly justify behaviors that don't align with our goals, we end up undermining our own potential for change. So, for example, someone might continually indulge in comfort foods thinking, I deserve this because I had a hard day, without considering whether that behavior aligns with their long-term goal of weight wellness. While self-compassion might encourage a gentler approach to setbacks, it also asks us to honestly assess whether we are using compassion as a tool for progress or a shield to avoid facing uncomfortable truths. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we practicing self-compassion in a way that supports our growth and healing? Or are we using it as a way to excuse behaviours that don't serve us? True self-compassion invites us to understand why we turn to food for comfort, acknowledging the pain or stress that might be driving it, and then guiding ourselves towards healthier coping mechanisms. It is not about indulgence without boundaries. It's about caring for ourselves in a way that genuinely improves our overall well-being. I want to say a word about finding balance. The key to balancing self-compassion in emotional eating is ensuring that it leads to self-awareness and positive action. Self-kindness should be the first step towards better understanding your emotional triggers, but it shouldn't be the end of the process. Once you've acknowledged that you're eating in response to difficult feelings, the next step is asking yourself what you need. Is it rest, connection, relaxation, or something else entirely? By doing this, you're creating space for healthier coping strategies to emerge. It's essential to practice a form of self-compassion that includes accountability. You deserve kindness and understanding, but you also deserve to reach your weight wellness goals in a way that honours your long-term health and happiness. Self-compassion is the most powerful when it helps you evolve, not when it keeps you stuck. So recognizing when your behaviors are no longer serving you and gently guiding yourself towards change is the heart of true self-compassion. Okay, so let's explore common humanity and food struggles. So many of us have felt or feel isolated in our struggles with food. When we overeat or emotionally eat, it's easy to think that we're the only ones who, says in inverted commas, fail at dieting or managing our eating habits. And this sense of isolation can sometimes be overwhelming, and it can lead to feelings of shame or embarrassment, which can end up further entrenching our unhealthy behaviours. So the principle of common humanity helps reframe this isolation. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles with food. Millions and millions of people grapple with the same issue. It is more normal to be struggling in our relationship with food than it is to not be struggling in our relationship with food. So whether it's emotional eating or binging or feeling out of control around certain foods, these experiences are universal. They are not personal failures. Knowing that others share the same struggles allows us to feel connected rather than ashamed. So instead of thinking, why can't I get it right when everyone else seems to, adopting common humanity encourages us to recognize we're all dealing with similar challenges. This sense of shared experience can be really empowering. When you understand that food struggles are a part of being human, you're more likely to approach them with empathy and patience rather than with shame and self-blame. It helps soften the emotional burden, making it easier to move forward and make healthier choices without feeling defined by your stepbacks. Let's say a word about mindfulness and eating habits then. So mindfulness is crucial when it comes to transforming our relationship with food. Many of us eat on autopilot, especially during moments of stress or heightened emotions. We often reach for snacks, comfort foods, or sugary treats without being fully aware of what's driving that behavior. Emotional eating often happens so quickly that by the time we realize what's happening, we're already deep into the food, feeling disconnected from our bodies. Mindfulness offers a way to break this pattern. It encourages us to slow down and bring awareness to our thoughts and our feelings and physical sensations in the present moment. When we apply mindfulness to eating, it can look like pausing before grabbing a snack and asking ourselves, what am I really feeling right now? Am I actually hungry? Or am I bored? Or am I stressed? Or am I anxious? By staying present with our emotions, we create space to make more intentional choices, whether that's choosing to eat or finding another way to soothe ourselves. Additionally, mindfulness allows us to experience food without judgment instead of eating mindlessly or with a sense of guilt. We can practice mindful eating, savouring each bite, being aware of the flavours, and tuning into our body's signals for fullness. This not only enhances the experience of eating, but also helps us build a healthier, more connected relationship with our bodies and food. Taking those three, when we integrate self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness into our relationship with food, we move from a place of judgment, isolation, eating on autopilot, to one of compassion, connection, and awareness. Self-kindness softens the way we talk to ourselves about food choices. Common humanity reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, and mindfulness helps us stay present with our emotions and habits, allowing for more thoughtful, nourishing decisions. Ultimately, these practices help us cultivate a more balanced, compassionate relationship with food that supports our physical health and our emotional well-being. All right, what do we want to do? Let's explore then a few other things. Let's explore another area with regards to self-kindness because, well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, the challenges we have in our relationship with food often also are challenging, often without us realizing it, in other areas of our life as well. And the amazing thing with the work that we're doing here is that once you learn how to support yourself with a certain tool or skill, or just new way of being in your relationship with food, you can apply the same skills to other areas of your life as well. So let's explore how self-kindness can be applied when working through a tricky project at work, just as it would be in a relationship with food. So the challenges we face in our relationship with food often mirror struggles in other areas of our lives, whether it's professional goals, personal relationships, or self-discipline. And that's why learning to be kind to ourselves in one area can directly benefit other areas. The underlying issues might be something like some self-criticism, perfectionism, or feeling inadequacy often show up in different areas of our life. So when tackling a work project, for example, self-kindness might look like allowing yourself room to make mistakes. Instead of thinking, I'm never going to finish this or I'm not good enough for this role, self-kindness offers a gentler perspective that is challenging. You might be thinking, but I'm capable of figuring it out. You acknowledge the difficulty without letting it define you. It's a shift from harsh critical thinking to compassionate understanding, which ultimately fosters better problem solving and creativity. Self-kindness might also mean taking breaks when needed, recognizing that pushing yourself beyond your limits often leads to burnout rather than progress. So many of us have been conditioned to equate productivity with worth, believing that constant output equals success. But self-kindness teaches us or reminds us that rest is an essential part of doing our best work. Just as emotional eating often stems from pushing ourselves too hard without proper care, burnout can result from overworking without allowing ourselves the compassion to step back and recharge. Additionally, when we show ourselves kindness in our professional life, we create an environment where feedback and growth become opportunities rather than threats. Instead of viewing a piece of constructive criticism or a minor setback as a personal failure, we can learn to accept it as a part of the learning process. Self-kindness allows us to separate our performance from our worth, understanding that making mistakes or facing obstacles doesn't diminish our values as individuals or professionals. Okay, so can you see how applying the same self-kindness tools in your professional life as you would with your relationship with food will massively transform your mindset? When you approach both your work and your relationship with food from a place of self-compassion, you build a more balanced and fulfilling life. And of course, you can apply these theories to any area of your life, not just your professional, working life and food, but other areas as well. So if we go back to common humanity then, let us explore this by, again, reminding ourselves that we're all human, we're all imperfect, we all have struggles. So what might this look like in our professional lives? Well, imagine you're working on a tough project and things aren't going as planned. You might be tempted to think, I'm not cut out for this, or I'm the only one struggling with this kind of task. Remembering common humanity would prompt you to recognize that many people face similar struggles in their work. Everyone has moments where they feel out of their depth or unsure of themselves, and acknowledging this can help you to feel less isolated. And reducing the feelings of isolation can lead to feeling less stressed and being more emotionally engaged. What about the last one then? So the third component of self-compassion. So when it comes to the third component of self-compassion is mindfulness. So mindfulness might be, again, it's about bringing awareness to these moments. So when we are being mindful at work, maybe we are coming home after a long day and maybe we're noticing that we have been feeling drained and frustrated. And we might find that normally we head straight for the kitchen, we start eating without thinking. But with mindfulness, we get to pause and check in with ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I really need right now? It's around staying present and supporting ourselves. So whether it's managing stress at work, handling difficult relationships, or coping with uncertainty, mindfulness will help us stay grounded and present, allowing us to respond rather than to react to life's challenges. So let's look at another example. So maybe you've got a difficult work project that is overwhelming you. Without mindfulness, you might find yourself spiraling into negative thinking. This is too much for me. I'll never get it done. And these thoughts might trigger anxiety, make it harder for you to focus and complete the task. But with mindfulness, you can step back from these thoughts and observe them without judgment. Instead of getting caught up in the anxiety, mindfulness allows you to notice the thought, label it as just that, a thought, and return your attention to the task at hand. And this doesn't eliminate the difficulty of the situation, but it does create some space between you and your emotional reactions, and that will make it easier to navigate challenges with clarity and calm. Mindfulness also plays a critical role in emotional regulation. Life is full of emotions, positive, negative, and everything in between. And so often our natural response is to push away uncomfortable emotions or become overwhelmed with them because we're resisting them. When we avoid or suppress emotions, they don't disappear. They resurface in other ways, sometimes through unhealthy behaviors like overeating or stress eating or emotional reactions. Mindfulness encourages us to stay with our emotions, even the difficult ones. It invites us to observe them without judgment or have the need to immediately fix them. So, for example, if you're feeling anxious, instead of trying to distract yourself with food or television, mindfulness encourages you to sit with your anxiety, to observe how it feels in your body, to notice if there's a tightness in your chest or a knot in your stomach, and to observe it and to be with it without judgment. Simply being present with emotion in our bodies without reacting to it helps the intensity subside on its own. Over time, mindfulness teaches us that we don't need to fear our emotions or avoid them. This awareness allows for more emotional balance, helping us to respond to situations thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Let's just have a quick recap on what we've explored today. Mindfulness, whether applied to food, work, emotions, or self-power, is a powerful tool for creating more intentional, balanced, and compassionate living. By staying present with our experiences, we learn to break cycles of reactivity, soothe emotional discomfort without resorting to unhealthy habits, and we can treat ourselves with the kindness and patience we deserve. Self-compassion can feel like a foreign concept for many of us, especially if we've spent years practicing self-criticism or pushing ourselves too hard. The truth is, being kind to ourselves is not only about reducing stress, but also about fundamentally shifting how we approach life's challenges. It involves developing an attitude of understanding, patience, and care towards our own experiences, especially when things go wrong. The steps I'm going to share next are designed to help you gradually integrate self-compassion into your daily life. Whether you're navigating your relationship with food, managing difficult emotions, handling stress at work, whatever it is, self-compassion can serve as a foundation for growth and healing. And by following these steps, you will be recognizing the struggles, pausing, practicing self-kindness, embracing common humanity, accepting imperfection, engaging in self-care, and also reflecting on the process. Okay, so number one, recognize moments of struggle. Start by becoming aware of when you're feeling stressed, anxious, or upset. Instead of pushing those feelings away, acknowledge them. For example, notice when you're feeling overwhelmed at work or frustrated with yourself for overeating. Number two, pause and reflect. When you catch yourself in a moment of difficulty, pause, take a deep breath, and reflect on what's happening. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? This will create space between you and your emotional reaction, allowing you to respond more thoughtfully. Number three, practice self-kindness. Respond to yourself with the same kindness you would show a friend. If you're beating yourself up for a mistake, consciously choose words that are gentle. Say something like, "It's okay, I'm human, and everyone makes mistakes." Speak to yourself with care and compassion. Number four, embrace common humanity. Remind yourself you're not alone in your struggles. Everyone faces challenges, setbacks, and moments of difficulty. Understanding that suffering is part of the shared human experience helps to reduce feelings of isolation and self-blame. Number five, accept imperfections without judgment. Mindfully observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. If you feel anger, sadness, or disappointment, acknowledge that those feelings as they are without trying to change or suppress them. Let go of the need to be perfect and give yourself permission to feel what you're experiencing. Number six, engage in self-care. Take intentional steps to care for your emotional and physical well-being. This could be taking a walk, journaling, meditating, simply giving yourself a break. Acts of self-care reinforce our work and our worth and help us recharge. Number seven, reflect and learn. After moments of struggle, reflect on what you've learned from practicing self-compassion. Ask yourself, how did it feel to treat yourself with kindness? What impact did it have on the way you handle the situation? And over time, this reflection reinforces your ability to apply self-compassion consistently. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to share with you today. Couple more reminders. Self-compassion is foundational. It's not just a practice for isolated moments, but a mindset that transforms how you approach yourself during challenges. Self-kindness is replacing half self-criticism with gentle, understanding words, especially when you make mistakes. Common humanity recognizes that everyone struggles, that you're not alone, and imperfection is a part of being human. And mindfulness is about being present with your thoughts and feelings without judgment, allowing room for better decision making. All right. If you have found today's conversation interesting or thoughtful or helpful, why not take the next step and join us in the Embracing You program? It is your opportunity to go deeper into your relationship with yourself, developing the tools and mindset shifts to apply self-compassion in your daily life and a whole lot more. So Embracing You is designed for women in midlife who are ready to transform their relationship with themselves and their body and their overall well-being. Through 6 modules, we'll be exploring self-kindness, body acceptance, emotional resilience, and more, all in a supportive, nurturing environment. And the program isn't just about surface level changes, it's about creating lasting transformation in how you see and treat yourself. So if you've struggled with feelings of guilt or shame or frustration, whether it's around food or other areas of your life, this program will give you tools to break free from those patterns. We'll help you reframe negative self-talk, build healthier habits, and develop a more compassionate approach to the challenges you face. What makes Embracing You special is the way it connects inner growth with practical strategies. So you'll not only gain insight into why you've been stuck in certain patterns, but also learn how to apply self-compassionate practices that lead to real sustainable change. Okay, so if you're ready to experience a deeper connection with yourself and create a life where you feel empowered, resilient, and worthy, who doesn't want that? I encourage you to join us. So find out more at www.thebestyou.coach/embracing you. And thank you for listening today, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and are ready to live a more intentional life, lose weight as a part of that journey, and create a relationship with food and yourself that you love, then I would be honoured to have you join the Lose Weight, Live Life Academy membership and coach with me. The programme offers different levels of support to suit you, including self-paced learning, twice weekly calls, private coaching, an amazingly caring community, and lots more. Find out all the details about when and how you can join at www.thebestyou.coach/coaching.